Hey, good morning and happy Friday to you. Thanks so much for tuning in to Tisha Talks Live. If you're catching us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, welcome and hello. We have a special guest coming on, Jonaed Iqbal. He's a good friend of mine on LinkedIn, and we're going to be diving into community and self-awareness and how you find the right community for you. But before we begin, a couple of quick announcements. If you have been following my journey here in Phoenix, you know that I host a Social Connect event every single quarter. Well, this year I'm simplifying it quite a bit. And now Social Connect Simplified is coming up January 30th from 4 to 6 at Courthouse in Chandler. And you can always join the community, the online community at socialconnect.world. And then every other month, I will be adding in a service project. So Connecting Through Community will be taking place sometime in February. More details to come with that, but looking out, helping out Midwest Food Bank and lending a hand. So friends, family, kids, always welcome to come and join in as we spread the love this year and help our communities out there and get connected as well. So you know how we like to do it. We like to start off with a little bit of a dance party before we bring our guest in. So I'd like to go ahead and share that, and then I will be right back. Welcome back. It's time to bring our special guest, and I see some comments coming in. So hello, thank you so much. Royce Blake saying yay. Time for Tisha Ness, and Pierre Evans saying this is great. Hey guys, great to see you here. And if you're tuning in or you're catching the replay, Jonaed and I are always here if you want to ask us a question, share a comment, or just say hello. We'd love to hear from you. So without further ado, Jonaed Iqbal is here. Jonaed, welcome from New York City. How are you, friend?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since I've been on live. I need to do this more.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I host it, but then I'm coming on live with Kim Boudreau Smith next Tuesday and get to be her special guest. So it's always fun being the interviewer and the interviewee, right?
It is because I feel like when you're doing your own, you got to promote it, you got to do this. Whereas your guest, you just show up.
Yeah, you show up. It's good. Well, today we're going to be talking all about community and awareness, and I have to add that in. Yeah. I just got that. I was like, oh, that's my last guest stuff, but I know I added your stuff. How interesting, StreamYard. Anyway, so today we're talking about community and self-awareness and the importance of that. And I know, Jonaed, you were big into community. And I think just even from the promo, you saw that I love community. And we were talking about this even in the green room. And you have a lot of things going on. You're founder of nodegree.com. You have a podcast running. You're a career coach. You're helping all sorts of people get jobs. Tell us a little bit more about you before we dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot going on, but they all tie back to nodegree.com. Just because it's like people come to me, and through that I've learned a lot about careers, resumes, and think about as a career development company. So I've learned a lot from it, and being on LinkedIn, it's like once you start developing a community and people start knowing you for what you do, and you keep delivering, you do a good job, you'll just get a lot of referrals. So I actually don't create a lot of content relating to careers too much, but I still get a lot of business because I used to at one point, just because word of mouth and searchability and visibility. So, and it's good because once you have a community that knows you and trusts you, you don't have to go do sales as much because you'll get a lot of referrals.
Right. I think that's the missing element of a lot of people, that they're missing the boat there. That yes, if you create the community, people will already know you, like you, trust you, will know what you do in context. So you don't really always need to be pushing, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. You don't need to be doing that. as much on LinkedIn. So I want to say hi to Andrew, who's also joining us.
Yeah.
He's also in Canada. So
Okay.
hey, Andrew, good to see you here. Yeah, perfect. All right. Okay, so let's dive into this whole topic of community because I think for the most part, people are like, well, how do I find my right community?
Yep.
Would you be able to give some tips, Jonaed, about how you find a community that you want to be a part of?
Okay. So there's several types of communities. There's online communities and in person, and each have their pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
Because in person it's more active. You gotta get ready. You have to go drive and all that. But it's good. You make some very good connections, and since they see you, it's easier to build trust that way. Online, there are Slack communities, there are Discords, there are just other online now. People use like Circle and Mighty Networks and all that.
Yeah.
What I always say is for community, you want to make sure what is your goal? Like, why do you want to join a community? Like, what is it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's some communities that focus on creatives, there's some focused on business owners, there's some focused on moms in the area. So, what is your goal with the community? Is it to make money? Is it to find people? Is it to make friends? Once you have understand it, you need to really think what communities are going to serve. So let's talk more about the business ones because that's I know a lot of people look for that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about, okay, what am I? Am I a small business? Am I online business? Like you mentioned that people who are in e-commerce, like in New York City, Shopify in the Shopify building, they host like meetups with like they bring in speakers. So if I were in e-commerce, I would go there.
Yeah.
Now, there are communities that focus on tech. They're focused at finance. So it's like, what's your goal? Who is going to help you? The one mistake that a lot of people make is they don't focus on contributing.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in their joining community, they think, what's in it for me? And there's nothing wrong with thinking about that. But if you really want to connect with community, it's like, how can I benefit them? What do I bring to the table? So it's like, yes, you'll learn, but always try to think that you have a role. And then that's when the community does so much more for you. It's one of those things, like I found that the more I give, the more I receive. So in a
Mm-hmm.
community, like let's say you had your one that you meet in person, it's like, okay, hey, Tisha hosts this. How can I help her? How can I make her easy? Maybe I can get a vendor. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can help her with that. And then you'll see you'll remember that person more, and then
Mm-hmm.
you'll ask, who are you looking to meet, and you'll give intros and all that. So you really have to think about, how do I support people in the community, and then you'll get support back.
Yeah. I think that's one thing too is I actually belong to a community that's part of my real estate brokerage. Like we created
Mm,
a whole Elite Business Alliance networking group. And as part of the board of that, we're even asking people like how many communities, how many networking groups do you belong to? Because those people that are just like network happy, they
yeah.
join everything, but they're not really investing their time
Yep.
and really giving back to a lot of the, just to that community in general. So I would even ask that question of, are you stretching yourself too thin? Are you
Yeah.
becoming a part of way too many things that you can't even contribute? That's a
Yep.
great word that you brought up, to the community, to be memorable, to stand out in that community. Is it just, I'm in this community just to say I'm part of it, but I'm not really part of it?
Yeah, because I see so many, and people will ask me like, hey, I'm starting a community, and I'll be like, look, I'll join, but I'll be honest, like, it's hard because it's like I got to worry about my LinkedIn, then I got to worry about my Twitter, then it's like managing this, it's managing that, and it's like I have to be really intentional because we have limited time, and as you know, it's like we have bills to pay, we have that, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
I have to take care of that. I have to make sure like my workers are paid, and then what limited time I have, it's like, what is going to help me out? So it's like, is it an interest that I really care about, or is it something that's going to advance my business? Because it's like, you know how it is as a business, it takes time to get it to a certain level, then it gets time to maintain it, and then it's just trying to manage giving yourself, doing what you can, then managing the messages. So I always say, like, join a few, but make sure you have impact, that you're serving, that you're supporting. And too many people focus on the size. It's not the size. It's like
Yeah.
it's the meaningful conversations that you have.
Yeah. We were talking about this in the green room too, about how he's hosting my Social Connect Phoenix last year, actually for the last 6 years. And it got to a pretty sizable group. There were probably like
Yeah.
80 to 100 people that would show up to this happy hour. And this is a great comment that just came in. Don't stretch yourself too
Yeah.
thin. So yeah, I absolutely stretched myself too
Yeah.
thin, Jonaed. I was like, I'm doing everything. I'm adding in more. I don't even get to be part of the conversation anymore.
Yeah.
I've removed myself so far from the community aspect that I wanted that I was like, I need to back away from this. You're right. I
Yeah.
just can't do this anymore. And I really brought it back this year as just a simple happy hour. And to me, it's not about the numbers, like you said. I think most people enter into community going, there's 30,000 people in this community.
Yeah.
Are there really 30,000 people in the
Yeah.
community? Or is it just, maybe 500 are actually
Yep.
active in this community?
Yep.
So, yeah. So I'm more about, hey, you know what? If 5 people showed up to a happy hour, could I have a great conversation? Absolutely.
Yeah. Because
Right.
even when, like, I'm in New York City, so there are networking events every day. You're really looking to connect with like 1 to 3 people at the event. So it's like, as long as they're the right people, and then the fortune is in the follow up. It's like the people you actually keep in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters. Not, hey, you hand out your business card. And I've been to networking events where like, hey, here's my business card. Is like, I don't even remember. I have no idea how that person looks like. I forgot where that business card is. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go reach out to that person. I only remember that the person was just giving out his networking the card. So it's like, you want to make sure, because if I ask you, hey, if you're buying a house in California, who's a real estate agent you're going to use?
Mm-hmm.
There's someone that comes to your mind, and the person that comes to your mind either have a good personal brand, they're part of the community, their first certain thing. So it's like, you want to think about that. Like, hey, if someone thinks about what you do, and especially if you're like a real estate agent, you have to be much more competitive because there are other real estate agents that they know, right? They may have friends in that.
Uh-huh.
I'm fortunate in the sense of mine. I have a unique lane. Like, a lot of people don't know resume writers in person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm known as a no degree guy, so I get tagged in conversations. So it's like, you have to know what makes sense and how easy or hard it will be to differentiate yourself.
So let's talk about that for a little bit because you said I'm known as the no degree guy.
Yeah,
And to me, I feel like that's such a good differentiator for you. And it, in terms, it also created your community for you
yeah,
because now people come to you that they're like, I want to know the no degree guy because I
yeah,
don't have a degree. I didn't
yep,
go to college. And I feel like he probably knows a lot of people like me, relatability, that he can help or he can provide resources or whatnot.
yeah,
So I feel like, in a way, Janayed, you have created the community just like I've created a community of
yeah.
I don't want to have business cards at an event. I don't want you shoving business cards in people's faces. I don't want this. So it gets back to what do you want to be known for?
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I want to be like you said, I am known for the nodegree.com.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I'll say is, like, make sure you can be known for a lot of things, but there's like those 1 or 2 things that they'll just go to you for.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to really define that. Just because it's like, look, you do a lot of things, I do a lot of things. It's
Yeah.
just how it is. Like, if you're entrepreneurial, you're just going to get involved in a lot of things.
Right.
But you
Mm-hmm.
also have to think about, what are people going to remember you for? What are they going to refer people to you for? Because if people will always ask you, hey, how can I help you? What can I? And you kind of only have one ask. Yeah, you can say, hey, if you know people who do this, people who do this, people who do this. So
Yep.
one thing, a piece of advice I'll say, you can either adjust what you say depending on the situation. Like, if you're at a real estate meetup, hey, if you're looking for XYZ. If you're at a speaking engagement, it's like, hey, if you're looking for a speaker. You can't, you have to figure out what that person is, what they can help you with, what the context is, and then give them that. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you go too much, it's like, it just really has it's going to make it harder for people to remember you. Because you know, I I encourage people, think about how often you're thinking about other people. Think about how often you remember, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's people who've been strategic that you tend to remember more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have a great question coming in from Royce. He says, how or when can you tell that the community isn't providing enough value for your time? That's a great
Mm.
question.
So what I'll say is, go back to why you joined the community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, were you there for business, or are you getting enough business? And don't purely think ROI, because I think,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's more to community than that. So are you getting the conversations? Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you getting the business? And then use that and then go back. It's like, hey, is this serving me? Because community takes a lot.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're like a helpful person, you're gonna get involved to volunteer and grow and all that, and which is cool and all. But just think about, am I able to do and hit the goals that I set out to do? Is this community helping me achieve my goals? Is it not? And then it's like, am I investing the right time to get what I want out of it? And that's how I would choose, is it serving me? And that it's like hard to give you a straight answer, because it's like it depends. It's so complex. Uh,
Hmm.
but it's like, can you commit to it? And then, is the community committing to you in the way that you want?
Hmm. You know, so I want to bring that up too with this group that we started with our real estate company. It was like the owner, and I love our broker, but it almost felt like he was like shooting from the hip at a lot
Yeah,
of these meetings. And he was just talking, and I could just see all the faces that are just like, oh, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And I finally had to bring it up and say, look, people come here for value. We need to figure out what value we can
yeah,
provide to our community members, or we're not going to see them coming back, because they're just going to dismiss it and they're going to say it's the same old, and I don't get much out of it. So, what can we do differently? So, we really just threw everything out the window and started from scratch of what is the value that we bring to this community and how
yeah,
do we serve them. And a lot of it, Royce, you know, question is you asking your community, what would you like from this community? How can I
yeah.
incorporate these kinds of things into it to provide you the value so that you continue coming back and you bring your friends that are looking for the same type of support?
Yeah, you have to really think about that. And I encourage everyone to think about, how can they help their community? Because I
Mm-hmm.
find a lot of people don't get anything out of a community because they're not thinking about how to improve the community. Because you've done things and you have the in-person community. It's a lot. And if someone
Mm-hmm.
comes in and it's like, hey, Tisha, okay, what do you need help with? Like, can I bring a box of donuts? Can I do this? Can I bring spoons? Can I bring soda? It's like one less thing you have to think about,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that means you can focus on the other things, that maybe getting a speaker, or even if they're like, hey, what's the topic? Maybe I can recruit speakers. So always try to think. And then you're going to see you're going to get a return, because now you're going to get someone else more visibility. You're going to build a relationship. You're going to use that contact. And now you get things happening. So I always tell people, like, figure out a way, no matter how big, how small, it makes a difference. Like, people think like it's small, like soda, but it's like, I'm pretty sure you're like, that's one less thing I got to put in my trunk. And that's one less thing I got to buy. That's like that. I don't have to stop by and leave extra early to stop by like the Walgreens to get something.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because even at the last Social Connect, when I said it was my last call doing it in that capacity, I had so many of my vendors and even
Yeah.
just people who have attended who are like, can I bring all like the paper plates? Like,
Yeah.
what do you need support with? Like, please don't end it. And I just had to say, like I've said, I'm not ending it. I'm just
Yeah.
reimagining it so that it better fits what I intended. So,
Yeah.
intentionality, I guess we can go back to that with community, is what is your intention? If you're the one that's creating the community, what's the intention? Right. And my intention has always been to connect with really, really good people.
Yep.
I want to bring this up to Martin, who is tuning in off of LinkedIn. Says that Jonaed is spot on. Why did you join the community? And when you support the community supports you. So very big. And yeah, Roy's saying, be known as a giver. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
I have something to say about that.
Yeah.
So I'm a giver. I think it's important to limit your giving. And what I mean by that is, the empty cup analogy. You can't pour out of the empty cup. So what I always tell people, because what happens is, if you're a giver in a community, you try to help out everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What I always say is, make sure that it doesn't come at the cost of yourself and your goal. So, like, look, I do a lot of resumes for free, right? But if I always did it for free, I can't take care of paid clients, right? I won't have the bandwidth to do what I want to do. So what I always say is, if you want to be a giver, um, in some situations you have to give a lot, right? You have to give more, you have to spend more time, but try to find something that's low cost to you, that's high value to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So now if someone's like, hey, I'm looking to expand in this, and you're like, hey, I actually interviewed someone on my YouTube channel, I'll send you the link. So you're giving them the info,
Mm-hmm.
something quick. Maybe you have to search it up. You have all things, you send it. So always try to think about, find the balance of giving. Like, hey, like I do free work. I'll be like, hey, I limit my free resumes to one a week,
Hmm.
because it's like you have to really make sure that you make time for things. Like you can't say yes to everything. And that's something I've learned just more and more, because you say yes to everything and it's just wearing yourself out. It's tougher. You're not going to hit your goals, because I found that the more you hit your goals, the better position you're in to give more,
Hmm.
right? You can give more when you're in a better financial situation, when you have more contact and you have that, but you can't get there unless you're giving back to yourself.
Hmm. Give back to yourself. It's a great
Yeah.
tip right there. And Andrew saying, hello from Canada. I love this topic. Tish and Marie Pelletier, I'm huge on community and building rapport. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think it's good. And the good thing about community now is, one thing I'll say, to find a community, join one, go to like a networking event, and then talk to someone and say, what other events are you going to?
Hmm.
I have found that people in communities are part of other communities, and people who go to networking events go to other networking events. And once they know you, they can be like, hey, Tisha, and I know I
Hmm.
keep saying real estate. Hey, we have this real estate group that's XYZ where we really share. So that may
Hmm.
make sense for you. So, but people will direct you to other communities that they know are good, and that's a great way. So it's like, find the first one or two. From there, you'll find other ones.
Let me talk about that too, about efficiency, because I think that a lot of us are, I don't want to waste my time going to these communities and not getting much out of it. And
Yeah,
I know for myself personally, and back me on this, or we can talk about this a little
yeah,
bit more, but I belong to one of the chambers out here
yeah,
and representing, my real estate company. And I've gone to one where they let everybody in the room take 20 seconds to introduce themselves. And I've gone to an after hours business
yeah,
networking where it's like 300 people shoved in a room and nobody gets
yeah,
to say anything and you're just kind of in it for yourself. I would say figure out what works for you,
yeah,
because for me, the smaller event where I get to introduce myself is far more effective, because then I actually get to say, these are the types of individuals that I would really like to meet in this room.
yeah,
Right. And then I get to find them. So it's so much easier to be able to say, oh my gosh, okay. And after
yeah,
everybody's done giving their 20 seconds, to be able to go up to that person and make the introduction and then take it offline.
yeah,
So what are you there for? If it's just to mix and mingle and eat some tacos, by all means, have fun with
yeah.
that. But if you're really there for a purpose, figure out what the purpose is and go there with that intention.
Yeah, no, it's important, and I think find out who the person is, because
Mhm.
I've been to so many, and it's like the fortune is in the follow up. Like, who are you
Yes.
building? Who are you following up with? Who are you keeping in touch? That's what matters. If you just go have some short conversations with a lot of people, they're just, what's going to happen is, when they're buying a house, they have real estate questions. They're not necessarily going to think of you, or they're going to be like, that was a nice woman. What was her name?
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like, you're just not going to remember. That's the reality.
So let's bring it back to mistakes, because you've mentioned the fortune is in the follow up, and you've probably been to some events where you've met someone, you've done the follow up, and they've just like completely dissed you. They've
Yeah,
ghosted you, they haven't replied, and then you see them at the next event and you
yeah,
make eye contact with that person. You're like, I know I followed up with you, but I know
yeah,
you didn't respond to me. And then it's just this weird encounter because you're like,
yeah,
do I talk to you? Do I tell you? Do I call you out on your shit?
yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, no,
What do
that's
you
fine.
do? What do you do? It's just awkward, right?
So I find that, like, I assume good intention, because you know what it is. It's like, people have kids, people have
Yeah.
families. You don't know what people are going through and all that. Like, my inbox is a nightmare. So it's like, I wake up every day and I'm like, crap. I have to do this, I have to do that. And then,
Right.
a lot of times the LinkedIn inbox is not good. Email tends to get very clogged up. So it's just very tough. So you'll see how the conversation goes. And oftentimes they're like, oh shit, I didn't follow back up. And then they'll remember. So it's like, sometimes it takes a couple of times for you to
Yeah.
build that. So I'll just follow up if we have a good conversation. And then if they don't follow up, then it's whatever. And then sometimes they'll need you, like, hey Tisha, you know what, I'm actually looking at a house, and
Yeah.
because you're nice about it, you don't want to not be approachable because someone didn't answer you. and you don't want to waste your mental energy or like all this. Just assume, okay, they're busy,
Yeah.
and it was an intentional one. That's it. I think too many people take it way too personally when it's like they're in the middle of something, they're worried about their job, they're worried about their kids, they're worried about their significant other,
Right.
and this occupies their mind, so it happens. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my email and I'm like 130. I'm like, oh, I gotta unsubscribe. So it's like I've had issues. I've had ones that slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say too, another really great tip about community is to show up,
Yeah,
because I know, like I mentioned, that I go to this chamber event every single month. And I feel like every single month there's maybe a few people that I've seen at previous ones, but the people that I'm trying to find haven't come
yeah,
back to it.
yeah,
So if you're going to commit to a community, show up to the community. It's
yeah,
not, I came once, I didn't go again. I come like maybe every 6 months. You
yeah.
won't get much out of that if you don't
Yep.
commit to that community.
Yeah. That's why I say don't join the
Yeah.
5 to 10
Oh,
and
yeah.
show up half the time. Join your 2 to 5 and do your things where you're answering the messages, because it's like, look, I'm part of so many Slack channels
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, which ones? It's like it's so hard to keep up with, and it's like there are a handful um that I really focus on. And it's like because I'm part of like this one about LinkedIn algorithm stuff. So it's like actually now it's not a Slack channel, it's like a circle community now. But it's
Yeah.
like you got to keep up. So it's like, can you log in? Can you do that? So it's like, what are your goals? What can you commit to? And you can change up the communities you support or you put more time into
Hmm.
if you feel at different stages of your life.
Yeah. That's a good thing, is you can change. You can always
Yeah,
change direction. You can leave communities. You can
yeah.
join new communities.
You
It's a
can go
great
back to
tip.
old ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Always, always. I think it, like you said, it's about the season of life that you're in right now and what
Yeah,
works. There are some communities that I've been a part of that I said I don't really have the time for that. I've committed to
yeah,
some other things, and I think what you said, like you have to know where your capacity is.
yeah.
You can't just keep adding and adding and adding, and then you're like, ah, I don't
'Cause,
have the time. I don't have any of it.
because when you keep on adding, you're subtracting from other things.
Right.
Right? It's not like, hey, 1 + 1 + 1. It's not like money. You keep on adding, you have more.
Right.
It's you keep on adding and you're taking away from your time, you're taking away from your energy, you're taking away from your capacity, you're taking away from your focus. So you really have to be intentional. Because I know when we start, we're joining all these things, but I also say, like, can you commit to your clients? Can you
Hmm.
commit to what you wanted to do? Can you commit to yourself, your own health? If you're not, that's what happens.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So I want to end on this and then have you introduce and tell us all about your
Yeah.
shameless plug and what you've got going
Yeah.
on. I do want to say hi to Luis, who's joining us from Groovy, California, and Ventura. Nice to see you, Luis. I have met him in person too. And then Royce saying great practical insights, Jonaed. Thank you so much. So where was I going with this? Now I think I lost my train of thought.
Oh, you want to I guess, like, yeah, no, I lost my train of thought too.
Well, okay, so you brought up a really great point in the green room, and we didn't get to ask this
Yeah.
question, but about blending your connections and how sometimes that can backfire on you, like online, in person, and
Well, that
then
doesn't backfire. Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, I go. Okay, I know what you're going. So
yeah. So have you ever had that experience where? Because I know I've met, like Luis's one, I've
yeah,
met some of these folks in person. So what can you say about that? Like you're online, you're in
yeah,
these communities, you're meeting all these people on your LinkedIn, and then you want to take it offline. Like what would you say to that if that's kind of your
yeah.
strategy?
So I'm in an interesting position because I have like 42,000 LinkedIn followers, and I have like a strong community. I didn't just grow with like, hey, I'll grow quick and hit the numbers. Like I have had thousands and thousands of conversations. I have like a Twitter following. So what sometimes what happens is I go visit a city and I know like 20 people, but I'm there for 3 days and there's like no way I can meet all of them. So you're kind of in a position and you have this work thing. So it's like you kind of get stuck. But what I will say that if you have a place, meet them at a conference. Conferences are like the best way, like, hey, I'm in for the conference. I have an extra ticket if you want to come, or that's a great way because I've been to conferences and I've met like 100+ people at once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I I do not do coffee dates. I could not do 20 coffee dates.
Yeah. See, I could. It's coordinating the coffee date that ends up super tough.
Yeah, well, and I mentioned this to you in the green room as well, that I love happy hour. I think you guys know that. I think that's just
Yeah.
an easy way to do it. It's still during the day. You don't have to interrupt your family time in the evening. So
Yep.
I always do that. If I'm in a new city, I'm always like, hey, here's where I'm going to be for happy hour. Let's meet
Yeah.
up. If you can make it, great. If not, that's okay. But at least
Yeah.
I want to let you know I'm here in town. So I'm not trying to coordinate 20 different meetings to meet you one on one.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that too, Jonaed, is that your network gets to meet each other. And I love that. I'm like, oh, I get to be the
Yeah.
ultimate connector that gets to bring all of you people in just because I'm here in this town, and you get to meet each other too.
Yeah. No, it's good. I like that where it's like, hey, I'll be here. Feel free to stop by. I
Yeah.
find that, if you can go, a lot of people, like a downtown is like safe, where it's like,
Uh-huh.
hey, I'll be at this coffee shop and you'll kind of like work out. I think that's like a very healthy blend. And
Mm-hmm.
in Denver, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice. It is good. Take that picture. It just takes the relationship to another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have a couple more people that joined us. Brandy Booth saying, nice interview. Thanks so much, Brandy, for tuning in today. And to our person from Bogota, Colombia, thank you for tuning in. LinkedIn user. I love that it does that sometimes and it doesn't even tell
Yeah.
me the name, but good to have you here. Thanks so much for everybody who tuned in. All right, Jonaed, take us home. Tell us how people can find you, what you're working on. I know you've got some
Yeah.
things coming up, how you support people on their career journey.
Yeah. So I am one of the best resume writers I know. And I will say that. Uh, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I have 275 recommendations at the bottom of my profile. So I'm almost at 300. So I'm really good at that. Uh, Check out my podcast. I host a No Degree podcast where I interview people without college degrees, have them share their stories. My mission is to make the world easier for people without college degrees. They often get stigmatized. As you know, there are a lot of great real estate agents who are very sharp who didn't go to college. So that's kind of like my mission. So it's like if any of you have people looking for jobs, more than happy to at least point them to free resources too. And then now me and my business partner Kevin, we create funny videos, but we also help small businesses and startups really hire talent, because we know sometimes finding the right person, you need something specific. So if you are doing that, or if you know anyone hiring, we really focus on the person. We focus on getting that non-traditional person with the background that's not easy to find. So if you have any of those, feel free to shoot me a message.
I love it. And Kevin Logan Jr. was on Tisha Talks last year around Thanksgiving, and we talked a lot about branding, especially when you're going out looking for a job. That you said this earlier, that you're like, if you did a live stream that you think could help someone, send it. So I actually
Yep.
have two people that are in the job market right now, and I was like, you got to watch Kevin's live stream with me because he dropped a lot of
Yeah.
nuggets. So I like that you said that you might already have the resource. It doesn't mean that you have to give this person all your time and energy, but you might be able to give them something that points them in the right direction and helps them anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I like this. Brandy saying, sure, met Jonaed at tech conference, like he said. Laugh out loud. I like it.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Brandy?
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jonaed, for being on Tisha Talks Live today and being my special guest and dropping some nuggets about community and how we build community and how we stand out in our community. I think you dropped some great tips of just, here's what I learned. Don't overstretch yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do too many. Like maybe, 3 communities is really good for you to be involved. And always ask how you can get involved. So can you
Yeah.
volunteer? Can you help out the person that started it? Like, what can you do? Because that's a really great way to be able to
Yep.
stand out. Yeah, too many people join communities and they're just like this faceless name that's just there, but they're not doing anything to really, help the community. They're just kind of space.
Yeah. Don't occupy space. Have your presence known.
Yes. That's a great tip right there. Make your presence known when you're in these communities, and that community will always give back to you. So, on that note, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm back next week with another Tisha Talks Live with Christian Veals. She's coming on and talking about alignment, which is just a great topic for the new year, of course. And you can tune in at 10:45 every single Friday. We'll see
All right.
ya. Have a great one.